Hello, my friends. Well, wow, last week, right? We voted in the 24th Canadian Prime Minister, Mark Carney. And right now, as we speak, he is in America meeting with President Donald Trump to discuss the confrontation, the tariffs, the threats, the friend to foe, to foe to friend scenario. Who knows what's going to happen? All we know is that the dance has begun, and we're in a world that we don't quite recognize. In some ways, I think this is a watershed moment for us. And like you, there's a lot of stress I'm thinking about. There's a lot on my mind, in my heart. I think we don't talk about the fact that this isn't just politics. It's about our country. It's about us. It's about who is Canada? What is Canada right now? I'm uncomfortable about the level of polarization that is occurring right now. I'm saddened by it. I'm uneasy about it. I don't fully recognize who we are. And I think we've chosen DEI and diversity and inclusion as the boogeyman, wokeism, that's the boogeyman or boogie woman. But for us, diversity and inclusion, that's part of the Canadian dream. That's part of the Charter of Rights. Multiculturalism is built in to who we are. And diversity is complexity. Complexity, when you can embrace it, when you can accept it as an opportunity, fuels innovation. It fuels innovation. So it's so strange right now that we're in this place of algorithmic division. We're in this place where rage is manufactured by podcasters. Not me. Division is their bread and butter. And it feels so foreign to me as a Canadian, as a woman, as a person of color, as part of the Black diaspora. I have always felt like Canada was this beacon of hope, this place where you could be free. And what I feel like now, and it's not just because of the tariffs and the pain that we are experiencing as a world community. It's that social media and technology has fueled this type of constant hunger for rage and division, and that the people who don't have our best interests in mind have used technology to dislocate us from one another. I mean, right now as we speak, I think Danielle Smith is giving a speech about separation and saying this really kind of weird thing where she's saying she doesn't want us to separate, but yet she's instigating it. Alberta's actually looking at going its own way? What? People are angrier, more divided, more tired than I've ever seen in my lifetime. And while we love to tell ourselves that we are not America, the truth is America is in our feeds. America is in our politics. America is on our mind. It is shaping the way we think. It is shaping our identity about race, about belonging, about how we disagree with each other. Their culture wars are becoming our culture wars. We're being algorithmically primed for rage. Our trust is splintered. We don't even agree on what's happened, let alone on what we should do next. We seem to have forgotten that we've emerged from a pandemic. We pretend it's over, but the reality is it's more than over. It's actually remade us. It's changed us. It's left not just scars, but gaping wounds. People are more lonely, more disconnected, more unwell. Talk to any healthcare worker right now. And strangely enough, healthcare was barely discussed on the election trail. And why is that? Because again, we were worried about America and the tariffs, and so divided in many ways that we can't even listen to one another. And we're existing in this soup of, there's a housing crisis, there's a productivity crisis, there's a crime that we've never seen before, we've never experienced before is happening. Not on the same levels as the United States. Let's not get crazy, but it's uncomfortable for us. And last week I read an article in the Globe and Mail written by two two very, very talented writers and thinkers. The article is called Now is Not the Time to Walk Away from DEI. And I have to ask a question. Did we ever walk fully towards DEI? Or is it convenient that the United States is leading this battle against DEI and, the boogeyman, the boogeywoman of wokeism? We've been very performative in the last 10 years in particular, in the last 5 years, about inclusion. And yet inclusion, multiculturalism, pluralism, is baked into who we are as Canadians. It's in our Charter of Rights. But we also have to grapple with the fact that we have a very complicated history. Residential schools and the 60s scoop. Hate crimes are on the rise since the pandemic, in particular. We have a housing crisis, as I mentioned. Professionals are being pushed out when they hit 50. So, excuse me, I'm over 50. And I've got a ton of energy. What are you going to do with all those people? What are they supposed to do? New grads, they not only can they not find homes, they can't find work. And newcomers are actually leaving because they can't find work and they can't afford to live here. These aren't fringe issues. The central question, what are we becoming? What is Canada now? Who gets to belong here? And who's getting to decide? I have been involved in diversity for over 30 years. I started my career at a science museum doing research about the relationship between scientific bias and the categories of race and gender, class, education, sexuality. That was 30 years ago in Toronto. And now I find us more entrenched in these categories, in these social constructs. Like race is a social construct. I know that we're very, divided because of race, but there is no biological marker for race. Race was an outcome of our need to prove the devaluation of some human beings in order to use them, abuse them, take their land, and so forth. But what are we becoming now, with all that being said, with all we've gone through, we've actually built a framework, a technological framework that divides us. We actually are fueled by an algorithm that is designed to enrage us, make us angry, make us sad. And we listen to people who believe what we believe, who look like us, rather than being what we are, what we've been for a long time, a pluralistic society that embraces many ideas and many types of people. We're not a monoculture. Think of a forest. How many different kinds of trees are there in a forest? And you know what happens in a forest when one tree is sick? When one tree is sick, the roots of the other trees all get rerouted to nourish and save that sick tree. And no one in the forest asks, does that tree belong to me? Does that tree look like me? Are those leaves the same as mine? Forests and rainforests are full, thousands and thousands of species that are interdependent and dependent and resilient, complex. And that's what we are in Canada. I think it's hard because it's hard, and complexity is hard. It's not about being polite. It's about being interconnectedly resilient. It's about facing the productivity problem we have. It's about the fact that 12% of young people are unemployed, and it's probably higher. So we all want to be young, but yet we don't want young people to have jobs. But we don't want people in their 50s and their 60s to be in the workforce. So who exactly is going to be doing all the work? And who's talking about it? And who's connecting the dots? I think we're actually in a place right now, and maybe, don't jump on me, but maybe we have to thank Donald Trump for a moment. Maybe if he hadn't created this false fight, we would never be thinking about getting rid of the barriers between provinces. Maybe we wouldn't be thinking about how to use our resources differently and how to build economic bridges with other countries in a significant way, rather than tie ourselves completely to the United States. And of course, what he says isn't true. But still, maybe this crisis, like when we have a crisis in our individual lives, is also an opportunity. But it's hard to create opportunity when we don't trust one another. Not only do we have a productivity crisis and an inclusion crisis, we have a trust crisis. We have an isolation crisis. We have more ways to connect, and yet we are so disconnected. More people are sick and depressed and filled with anxiety now than ever before. Because the pandemic is over in one way, but it has redefined us, it's remade us, and we're still grappling with it. We're still healing from it. And I'm asking the question that this isn't a political question, it's a health question. Who are we? What are we becoming? And who gets to decide what we become and who's at the table? What if we were truly listening to the pain of the human beings? Like, I have not heard in weeks about the fentanyl problem. Do you remember the fentanyl problem? 8 weeks ago, it was about the borders and fentanyl, and no longer are we talking about fentanyl. But why are there so many people dying of fentanyl? Why are there so many people turning to drugs? Are we listening to each other? Or are we prepared for majority of people to live in silence and to be sick? Listen, our prosperity is interconnected with who we are as human beings. And human beings require security and safety. Well, those are the two same things. They require a home. They require access to food and good nutrition. They require access to community. They require access to education and to jobs and to health and well-being. That's what creates prosperity. And it is not the work alone of the prime minister or the political parties or the political leaders. In fact, we see this divisive politics occurring. And in fact, many people will say it is the reason why Polyev lost was that he sounded like the people who want to divide. And then there are many people, some in my own family, who are like, no, I don't think that's what it's about at all. It's about being practical. But is it? Listen, my friends, we need to talk about this, all of this. We have to be unafraid to tell each other the truth. And I think we have to remember or retrain ourselves or train ourselves how to be agreeable with ideas that we disagree with, rather than be investing in fueling division. We find ourselves in a time primed for rage, but not for reason. We're still healing, we're still grieving. And I would submit to you that we are in a deep psychological crisis, a crisis of loneliness, a crisis of disconnection. And it is dressed up as identity. Some of you know I ran for office a number of times federally and provincially in Oakville, Ontario. This is over a decade ago, so don't come for me. And I have to tell you, I thought there were some problems then. People removing my signs. There was a fellow who jumped into my car once. That's a story for another time. But what I saw in this last election and what I see south of the border and what I see happening around the world is frightening. Because I don't think that's who we are. That's who we're being encouraged to be. For example, there are things that people say online, and I challenge you, if they were to have the opportunity to say that to your face, they would not say it. And why is that? Because I think we understand that we are each other's caregivers. We are each other's protectors. There are some who hurt and kill and do terrible things, but the majority of us are not that way. But we've weaponized our technology with words and we hurt each other. And then those hurt words spur and inspire people to feel bad, to feel sick, to be emotionally disconnected and not accountable for their behavior. And one of the powers of this moment is that, or the opportunities of this moment, is that if we have a minority government requires collaboration. It forces parties to show up and not just posture. It demands conversation across the aisle, across perspectives, across priorities. That's what pluralism is. It's not agreement, it's engagement. And then you find agreement. And Canada has a long history from the very beginning of who we were and who we used to be. And I'm not saying it wasn't violent, and I'm not saying that it was easy. That is born out of diversity, out of Anglophone, Francophone, and First Nations, Métis, Inuit people finding a way. And of course, we know that it's not been a solution that has worked for all. And that's why we have truth and reconciliation. Because we still have to learn how to apologize and forgive, and also create a society that is truly inclusive. And we have multiculturalism that's built into our charter, as I said before, but we seem to have forgotten that. And we seem to have gotten so far away from it, from understanding what it means. And as we grapple with housing and productivity and crime and immigration, we seem to have lost the tools for building relationships with people who don't agree with us or who have different ways of living and being. I don't think that's who we are. And it makes me feel, well, here's my observation. And I think this started with the pandemic. We are in a collective nervous breakdown. That's where we are. Diversity is complexity, and complexity is what drives innovation. We need it. We require it. We don't innovate by agreeing. We actually innovate by disagreeing. When ideas collide, we compare experiences and we fight and we argue. But then the more people you have at the table, the more lenses you have into what you are creating and the unmet needs and who gets to decide and who doesn't have a voice. Every time we set the table and we make the table bigger, we create opportunities to be more expansive. And I'm not talking that we should have quotas or do photo ops for diversity. I'm talking about really understanding that our strength is intellectual diversity. Our strength is people diversity. Our strength is understanding the complexity of being a human being and having multiple perspectives at the table. And frankly, right now, we don't. But that doesn't mean that we shouldn't, or that we can't try, or we mustn't try. We must try. Canada's economy depends on it. Canada as a society depends on it. I don't know what the outcome will be if there is an Alberta referendum on staying in Canada. I don't know what the outcome will be of Prime Minister Carney's visit to the United States, but I do know it all begins with respect, with the diversity of thought, by setting a table that is big enough for all of us to be at it, that we need builders, not just bureaucrats and podcasters. Hey, come on. Not just commentators and elites making decisions, but we need builders and makers and designers. I think it's Reid Hoffman, recently the co-founder of LinkedIn, who said recently that 50% of the professional working population will not have full-time jobs in 5 to 10 years. So we're going to have solopreneurs and entrepreneurs. Are we training our kids to become that? Are we building schools and educational systems that build individuals and entrepreneurs and creators and content developers and producers and founders of SaaS companies? Are we talking about that? I'm sorry, I'm getting very excited. I love this country. I love it so deeply. So I'm a woman. I'm a person of color. I've experienced sexism, racism, and all sorts of things. It's always surprising, though. And yet I think I'm living in the freest country for me in the world. My mother came here because she could be free here, because she could raise 4 children here as a divorced mother, as a divorced woman, because she could get a good job and she could have a great home and she could live in a secure neighborhood and that her kids would be safe. And I'm a Gen Xer, so sometimes we'd be sent out into the wild and there were no cell phones and we were safe and we had keychains around our neck to let ourselves in when our parents were at work. The world is different now and Canada is different now. And I know we can't go back, but what are we going towards? I'm tired of hearing people shouting and sarcasm and pessimism intertwined with this idea that somebody's coming to get us and that there's a conspiracy around every corner. There's got to be another way that's not left or right or red or blue, but is human, that is decent, that is agreeable when we disagree, that we understand that innovation comes out of difference, and that when we say we're going to listen, that we actually listen. I feel more inspired than ever before, actually, in 2025, because I remember being a kid in the 70s. I remember being a teenager in the 80s. I remember being in my 20s in the 90s, and I remember the opportunities and the kind of country I was living in, and that I felt safe, and I felt like I had a chance. One caveat, one of the great things about America, and there's a lot of things that are good about America, is that America represents unbridled possibility, or it used to. And I need that here. We need more of that here in Canada. There are a lot of people struggling right now because they don't know where possibility exists for them. So I hope, I pray, I dream, I aspire to live in a country where possibility is unbridled, where nobody is excluded, where diversity is not a bad word, where we understand that diversity means complexity and complexity leads to innovation, and that we design and create and make new things now. We have it in us. What do you think? Listen, I could go on, and I'm probably saying the same thing over and over again, so those of you who don't like that, please don't get irritated. Just send me a note. Let's start a conversation. Share this episode. Tell me what you really think. Maybe you should come on the show and talk to me about it. If you're building something new, come share it with me. I'd love to hear it and share it with our listeners. We need inspiration right now. We need to collaborate right now. We need to be able to innovate with one another right now. We need to build from the middle, from the center. Well, the middle and the center are the same. From the middle and from the edges. Here's my last thought. The world is new since the pandemic. The world has been here long before us, but we are new. And we are a new blueprint, a new pathway. Let's not throw out what's great in us. Let's not accept division as our direction. Let's love one another or like one another and make new things together. Diversity is complexity. Complexity builds innovation. And we are a new blueprint. My friends, wherever you are, may you be well. I say to you, namaste. Namaste, namaste. Until next time, follow me at Shay Marville on Instagram or on LinkedIn, Shay Marville. Join the movement to reimagine who we are together. And until next time, stay human. Bye for now.